things are getting a little exciting with regard to Iran.
Hey, Larry.
Well, Mario, hello, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, whatever it is. When Aesop wrote the fable about the boy who cried wolf, I think that boy only got to cry wolf like 3 times before the village got eaten by the damn wolf. Donald Trump is on like cry number 12. Oh, peace, man. We got an agreement. It's here any minute now. Just hold on. Any minute now. Any second. Just it's right there. We can see it. Just wait.
That is the situation.
Bullshit on the whole thing. It's ridiculous.
Did you script that intro? That was a perfect intro. That was an impressive intro. I've
been stewing about it all afternoon.
I just wanted to start with that because I thought it was so funny. But let's go to a later live stream from Mario, where he goes over the fact that Trump orders military action. Deal's not coming soon.
Colonel, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you, Mario?
Good. I'm hoping you can help me make sense of this. Did you see the announcement that came in from U.S. Navy Central Command? Just came in. I'm going to get the audio. Lisa, to fix your audio just to cut out now, unless you can fix it quickly now, and I'll read it out for the audience. You'll still be able to hear me while... Try to say something quickly. Yeah, Lisa, if you can fix Colonel's Anthony's audio just quickly in the green room, and I'll read out the announcement now for the audience that Lieutenant Colonel's coming on to talk about. U.S. Navy Central Command has warned mariners and airmen that CENTCOM will be conducting military operations in the Strait of Hormuz, north of Oman's Musandam Peninsula, located in the middle of the strait. And you guys know I know the Oman's Musandam Peninsula so well because Malcolm Nance talks about it in our shows. He's talked about it a lot. This is Oman's territory within the Strait of Hormuz. So what does it mean for the U.S. Navy to be conducting military operations? Then they expand. The U.S. Navy has advised to mariners to collaborate with the U.S. when transiting the Strait of Hormuz. They've also announced that the vessels spotted engaging in or supporting mine-laying activities will be targeted by the U.S. So for me, that seems like the U.S. is trying to open the Strait of Hormuz. They're asking mariners to collaborate with the U.S. when transiting. They're meant to work with Iran, but they're saying, hey, on the Omani side, you transit with us. So the reason they're doing this is the way I interpret this is negotiations are going on right now. Trump announced victory, but there's terms that haven't been agreed. And this action is because of one term. Iran wants to control the Strait of Hormuz. The U.S. does not want Iran to control the Strait of Hormuz. And the way I see this is the U.S. trying to put pressure on Iran again to tell them, look, guys, we do not want you to control the Strait of Hormuz. We will not let you control the Strait of Hormuz. So accept to concede that and we have a deal. That's how I see it. Did you hear me read out the announcement, Anthony?
I heard the last.
I'll read it.
I'll
read it out. It's a quick one. I'll read it very quickly. U.S. Navy Central Command has warned mariners and airmen that CENTCOM will be conducting military operations in the Strait of Hormuz, north of Oman's Musandam Peninsula, located in the middle of the strait. The Navy has advised to mariners to collaborate with the U.S. when transiting the strait. They've also announced that any vessel spotted engaging in or supporting mine-laying activities will be targeted by the U.S.
Yes, this is an outcome that I saw from at least my perspective very, very clearly in terms of where this would go. Last week when you and I talked, the peace talks were back on the table, and it was going back and forth between we're close. Oh, now we're not close. Oh, we're close. Now we're close again. And ultimately, it would have to have Donald Trump's sign off before there would be, any, signing on the dotted lines, so to speak, of any type of memorandum of understanding or extended ceasefire. I saw that as a ruse. Donald Trump has no intention of accepting any conditions or parameters from Iran other than absolute surrender. He said this in the early days of this war. In fact, in early March, he said this. I don't see him coming off of that precedent in terms of what he's already told the world. To do so, he would look even more weak than he is already in the eyes of the international community, and that this war has now been going on for 90 days, and Iran still holds the leverage.
So is it fair for me to say, and look, if I'm getting it wrong or you disagree, perfect, definitely let me know. Is it fair for me to say this is Trump trying to get, because there seems to be a deal that's on the verge of being accepted, but there seems...
Yeah, I called out on that. I have been skeptical of this deal since the very beginning. 2-3 months from now is when we're going to finally get a deal.
To be parts that they're not agreeing on. Is it fair to say that he's trying to get them to concede on the toll booth? Because the U.S. is saying, the Western media is saying there won't be any fee. Trump said it. Hold on, sorry. Today, Trump in his incredible post with the blockade being lifted, he said that Iran will not charge any fees in the Strait of Hormuz. And Iran said, no, what is he talking about? We're charging a fee. So is that the point that they're fighting about right now?
I believe that is the point of contention to continue with.
As long as Trump is saying stuff like that Iran won't charge a toll, that we'll get all their uranium, that this war was a big victory for the United States. As long as he's saying stuff like that, there's no hope of a deal.
Military escalation. I believe that military escalation to a point of total capitulation on behalf of Iran and accepting a total surrender has always been Donald Trump's end state, that and Israel. And I think that what we've seen in the last few weeks, the last few days of peace talks and negotiations has simply been to buy time, to allow naval forces to readjust to what Operation Sledgehammer will become. We know that high-level members of the Pentagon have had meetings. Why, if Donald Trump was simply getting a briefing yesterday on what the update to the memorandum of understanding would be, why would he have to call the chairman and other commanders to the Situation Room?
That is a very good point. Very good. So there's going to be some military action. Probably this weekend, since he likes doing it during the weekend and not during the week when markets are open. So good chance something happens this weekend.
There is clearly a military plan on the table. And I think that this is yet another condition of the toll booth, so to speak. You know, going into this war, there were known knowns. And those known knowns were that Iran did not control the Strait of Hormuz, nor had a desire to.
Correct.
Iran did not have a nuclear weapon, nor had the desire to.
Correct.
And that the United States Navy was seen as impenetrable, undefeatable, and omnipotent on the seas.
Correct. That little experience last year with the Houthis and them nearly hitting the aircraft carrier did weaken that perception a little bit. But for the most part, the United States was still viewed as undefeatable on the seas.
Now there are new known knowns and new known unknowns. But then there was a whole litany of unknown unknowns that have now presented themselves that are now a new reality.
This guy's starting to sound like Donald Rumsfeld. Known knowns and known unknowns.
And that is that Iran will, to some degree, control the Strait of Hormuz in an administrative or a direct military approach. That is the new reality that is set forth. And in the beginning, early March, when I said that this conflict, this war, is a strategic failure because the end state will only put the United States in a less advantageous position to when it started, no matter what the outcome is. Our Navy has been exposed with some critical flaws. Our air defenses, our missile stocks, our ability to joint command forces in a very narrow waterway has been challenged and has been shown to the world that we can't do it. So this has exposed strategically many weaknesses that were before were unknown knowns to our advantage in strategic deterrence, which are now known to the world and to Iran. And the military operations that are now going to ensue by U.S. Central Command are exactly what myself and other military practitioners have foreseen, that we are going to conduct naval operations in the Strait to physically gain control.
Yay. That's going to go badly.
Whether it be for a long period of time or a short period of time, we are going to see in the coming days and hours an increase in military activity, just like we saw a couple nights ago with the exchange of strikes between the United States hitting positions in Iran and then Iran responding to positions.
As long as oil infrastructure is not targeted, we'll be okay. As long as that doesn't happen.
In Kuwait, which were largely interdicted. I don't think they all were. I think that some were successfully interdicted. But what we're seeing now is the manifestation of the escalation of naval military force. I'm talking potential seizure, physical boots on the ground of some of the island chain within the Strait of Hormuz.
Just look at all the trouble Israel has had in Lebanon because of FPV drones. There's videos coming out of drones flying into trucks full of IDF soldiers. Well, there's going to be videos like that of drones flying into U.S. soldiers soon, if this is true.
Either Hashem Island, Hormuz Island, or the lesser and greater island chain inside the navigable strait. That is what the United States is now preparing to do. I believe that is what Donald Trump got briefed on in the Situation Room, and that why we saw over the last 12 hours was, well, I'm thinking on it, was to give the United States...
I mean, it would be par for the course for the United States to attack again during negotiations right on the verge of a deal. That's how we got into this Iran war, is we were on the verge of a nuclear deal, and then we bomb and kill the supreme leader. So I think Trump is going for that playbook again.
Central Command, the time and space to maneuver into position and now conduct military operations.
Holy shit. So you think this is more than just escorting ships? You think this could be the capture of some of the islands, the operation that we've been talking about for months?
It has to be. Trump needs something big enough to change the current dynamic, which is all in Iran's favor. And if it's just escorting a few ships through, that wouldn't do anything.
Is that what you mean, or I
Well,
misunderstood?
I'll tell you, the chief of naval operations. So you have U.S. Central Command, Admiral Brad Cooper, who is a 4-star combatant commander. He is a Navy admiral, but he is not necessarily a Navy commander. He is Central Command. The chief of naval operations for the United States Navy, in their testimony on the Hill last week, clearly said the United States Navy cannot escort maritime commercial vessels through the strait. We do not have the capability to.
Now, if that's true, then and Trump is announcing naval operations, then it has to be something other than escorting ships through.
Defend that vessel and to defend the ship itself that is escorting. That is not the mission of the United States Navy Amphibious Assault Group, Marine Expeditionary Unit, or even the carrier strike groups. That's not their mission. If it were their mission, they would be assuming a lot of risk in trying to escort a very, very large vessel that sticks out like a sore thumb
and moves at the speed of a bicycle
on both radar, sonar, and satellite imagery, trying to escort them through a very narrow navigable strait and defend themselves and defend that cargo. It cannot be done. The Navy themselves have said. So what we're seeing now.
These things are, you could fit like 2 football stadiums inside of these super tanker oil tankers. They move slower than a human can bicycle. And the Strait of Hormuz are this tiny, narrow strait up here. Yeah, there's no way to escort those through.
This distant blockade. Remember, the distant blockade that we were conducting in a blockade line south of the strait in the Gulf of Oman never went into and interdicted or escorted or penetrated the strait. It was always to the south. Now the United States is pushing forward to penetrate the strait itself, not to escort vessels, but to maintain a skirmish line or a line of contact, if you will, to then conduct further military operations. On the west side of the strait, if you were looking from the south, moving north, on the west side you have Oman and the UAE, so that's what I would call friendly territory. But just 6 nautical miles in, where the navigable channel begins, Iran has that area locked in tight with anti-ship missiles from the coast, from Qasem Island, we know that they're there, from Josk, further south into the Gulf of Oman, from Manab, we know that that's another location. So when you consider in Navy terms, when you look at Navy conflict, the engagement area, which is the central part of the Strait of Hormuz, has been developed very well by the Iranian IRGC, the Iranian Navy, and the Iranian Coastal Defense Forces. It will be a fight. The United States doesn't have the ability to escort maritime commercial vessels, nor will it. This is the United States Navy conducting military operations to seize control. That is the thing that Donald Trump will not walk away from, is Iran being in a position to where they will then, because it plays into Iran's hands strategically, it plays into their hands like checkmate on the chessboard. Don't give me my sanctions back. Don't release the sanctions and give us back our frozen assets. We're just going to charge tolls through the Strait of Hormuz to the point to where all that money you froze, we'll make that up in a week. Or you say you want us to
yeah, the control of Strait of Hormuz is such a powerful lever.
Relinquish control, no tolls. Okay, we'll have to talk to Oman about that, see what they say. But if that's the case, then unfreeze our assets and lift sanctions. So it's an offering that Donald Trump cannot accept. It's an albatross. It's an albatross around the neck of Donald Trump, and that is strategic failure, from the very beginning was clear. So we're now in the path of where
also, and if Trump does unfreeze the assets and lift sanctions, then he doesn't have that as leverage to pressure Iran to give up its nuclear material, because if he threatens to put sanctions again, well, Iran said, we'll close the Strait of Hormuz. So yeah, that's why Trump lost this war, is giving Iran control of the Strait of Hormuz.
I believe we will see Navy conflict in the Strait of Hormuz, direct conflict, and it's going to get it's going to get complicated. I'll say it's going to get more complicated.
Again, yay!
I didn't consider that possibility that they'd be targeting the islands. I just checked quickly on Grok. I took the quote, "The Strait of Hormuz, north of Oman's Musandam Peninsula, located in the middle of the strait," in inverted commas, and asked Grok, does that include the Greater Tunub, Lesser Tunub, and Abu Musa Islands, the ones disputed with the UAE? Because whenever there's talks about ground troops, it was always on these islands, capturing these islands as like the most logical path, and then trying to control the Strait of Hormuz through these islands and create air defense systems there. That was kind of the rhetoric of the discussions a few months ago.
Oh. So they want to capture these islands, set up air defenses there to shoot down missiles that would be aimed at ships going through the Strait of Hormuz, like to provide air protection. It won't work. It won't work.
So if this is the case, instead of just escorting ships and destroying mine-laying ships, if Iran tries to lay mines in the Omani side of the strait, so if it's not that, it's not just Project Freedom 2.0. If the ambitions are something more, Why do we just see an announcement and no strike? So we didn't see a surprise, because these are ground troops. If they want to capture these islands, you're talking about a ground operation on Iranian soil. So we've just escalated beyond everything we've done in the previous war. That's a whole other level. That's a ground invasion.
Yep.
And if that's the case, if Trump decided not to escalate to that level.
Oh, and for Iran, they're going to be so happy if this happens, because they have all these FPV drones. They've seen how effective they are in both Ukraine and Lebanon, and United States is not, its army isn't prepared to deal with it, and it's going to be a disaster, a propaganda disaster for the United States. All these videos of FPV drones diving into U.S. forces, and horrified looks on the faces of Marines as it's about to hit.
Level. Why announce it and no military strikes instead of not hearing anything and just hearing boom, boom reports of explosions in Iran? Because obviously, if this is the case, if they're going to send troops to these islands, Iran is going to do everything it can to repel that, striking the Gulf, closing Bab el-Mandeb, attacking American troops, attacking everybody, all the American ships.
Oh yeah, this time if we do that, they will close the Red Sea. They've been holding that back. The Houthis will close the Red Sea, so that will disrupt global trade even more than it already has been.
So then if that's the case and that's expected, why not strike them first, if that's the plan?
Well, the immediate operations to seize or control operationally beneficial islands within the strait itself may not come with the immediate boots on the ground or amphibious assault, nor would it have to require that at all. What it could be in terms of control, the tactical operational task of control, if I'm a commander and I tell my subordinate commander, control that island, I don't necessarily have to do it with boots on the ground. However, I do think that there will be an element of boots on the ground, surgical, to put systems on these islands to expand the air defense capability. We know in the strikes that occurred 2 weeks ago, kind of that probing strike of Manab and Kashem, where the United States Navy kind of tallied its way through the strait just to the south, got the Iranian forces to fire some anti-ship missiles, and then responded immediately with counterstrike. The strikes that were conducted 24 hours ago are a continuation of that. It's called reconnaissance by fire, movement to contact on the sea, if you will, where you're probing. What does the defense, i.e. the opponent, in this case Iran, what do they have? What do they have that can touch us? So you put them in a position to where they know that you're probing, but they have to respond. So the United States has now painted that picture. I do believe that United States Central Command now possesses a clearer, not entirely clear, but a clearer understanding of the air defense, shore defense, coastal defense, maritime defense, offense and defense capability of Iran in the Strait of Hormuz. Now is the time to then counter. Could that be putting boots on the ground? I don't think we're going to see something initially where it is a large number of boots on the ground, but I do certainly think that we'll see Marine Special Operations, MARSOC, Raiders, potentially Navy SEALs or Delta, conducting a limited objective operation to put assets on these islands to expand the Navy's counter air defense capability. What that looks like could range depending on how long the president intends to have this control. Because it's pretty disingenuous to say, Iran, you can't control it because it shouldn't be controlled, but we're going to control it. So whatever the administration has in mind has to be something that's limited in time and space, that can achieve a visual, tactile objective that Donald Trump can now then say, or at least portray
as a victory,
that he's negotiating on his terms. Because right now in these negotiations on the MOU or whatever a extended ceasefire might be, Donald Trump is not negotiating in a position of strength, and he knows that.
Yep.
So
every day that passes, Iran is winning closer to winning. Well, it's already won, but it's putting more pressure on the global economy, and time is on Iran's side. They're happy to sit back and do nothing, holding the Strait of Hormuz closed, because every day is closer to the time where the rest of the world gets together and pressures Trump into surrendering to Iran.
So this is once again military maneuver to achieve political maneuver space for a potential negotiation, which is likely not going to end with anything spectacularly beneficial for the United States.
Like after Project Freedom.
Exactly.
Oh. The perception, can you finish that sentence saying the perception would benefit how?
Well, we know that in what we've seen with the narrative back domestic and internationally, that this war in terms of down the line A, B, and C is a strategic failure. Not on the scale of, I would say, Vietnam or Afghanistan, because
not yet.
It's only been 90 days, but strategically a failure. How does Donald Trump then portray that to the domestic base, especially as we're going into midterm elections and he knows that he's in hot water domestically? How does he then convey to his base that this is a victory?
It's impossible.
It doesn't have to be a victory, but it has to look like one. And we all know that Donald Trump hangs his hat on the hook of victory of, I'm the deal maker. Look at the deal I made. And right now, it does not look like a good deal.
It doesn't matter what short-term optics he gets from doing an operation in the Strait of Hormuz, because gas prices over the summer are skyrocketing to $6-7 a gallon. That'll negate anything he accomplishes.
If at the end of the day, Iran totally controls and control the Strait of Hormuz, even if every condition is the same prior to the war that looks a lot like the JCPOA, if that one condition of Iran not controlling the Strait of Hormuz is removed, then it looks like a victory. It's not, but it looks like it at least. That, and Iran knows
I
that.
got it. So you're saying that the factor that, because
He wants to temporarily make it look like Iran doesn't control the Strait of Hormuz. I don't think he can even accomplish that. No matter what he seizes, no matter what Trump does in the Strait of Hormuz, ships won't be going through like they did pre-war. That is what he needs to accomplish. Like 140 ships going through here each day, like they did before the war started. And there's nothing Trump can do to restore that. He might... In fact, starting a war inside this area will make insurers absolutely not insure anything. Who wants to go through a strait where there's an active war zone going on?
Trump needs this to look like a victory for the midterms. Okay, that's what he's trying to achieve now. Strategic victory that we lost that a while ago.
That's what he's demanding from his military, and his military will try to deliver that, although he's asking for the impossible.
That possibility. Okay, so the strategic victory is impossible. So to get a victory from an optics perspective, then he needs Iran not to be able to charge a fee, because how the hell is he going to explain to people criticizing him, Iran wasn't charging a fee, now Iran charges a fee. If we destroyed their navy, we destroyed their army, we destroyed everything, how the hell could they charge a fee?
Exactly.
So that's the argument that people will be making, and that's probably the meetings he's having right now. What's delaying a deal? The unfreezing of assets, they found a solution. Qatar will unfreeze them or give them a loan collateralized by the money frozen. Okay, they found a solution to that based on the discussions I've had. Then what's left is the fee. I thought Trump will just accept it. Iran will call it something else, and Trump will be like, hey, it's not my problem. NATO and Asia has a problem. They can solve it. But you're saying this is politically very bad. So what he's trying to do right now is put pressure through a new naval military operation to try to force them to concede on the fee. But two things. He's tried that. It's called Project Freedom, and it didn't last a day. So why is he trying it again? And if you're going to go back to the fact that he wants the island, which obviously is possible, but like it's so quiet. There's nothing. There's the announcement. It's been an hour. And usually you hear the bombs, and then there's an announcement. There's nothing, not a peep, just an announcement. Unless the announcement alone is a way to pressure Iran. They won't take action on it yet, but they're expecting Iran's response, let's say, in the next couple of days, and they're trying to make this move as the last bit of pressure before Iran responds, similar to how they scrambled the jets from Israel. Remember that day when the Qatari delegation was in Iran last Friday? It's always a freaking Friday. 7 days ago, Israel scrambled the jets. Everyone thought strikes were imminent, but it was because the Qatari delegation...
No strikes have been carried out in the 84 minutes since this started streaming.
Whether they're pressuring Iran. Now, maybe the ball's in Iran's court after Trump had the meeting and responded and did his tweet, which Al Jazeera said his tweet was part of the conditions that Iran wanted. They wanted Trump to tweet about lifting the blockade. But maybe he added things to the tweet, bells and whistles. So maybe we are seeing negotiations progress. He's waiting for the Iranians to respond. And what he's doing right now is pressuring them as he waits for that response. Is that possible, or you don't think that's likely?
No, that certainly.
If it is, it's useless. Iran is going to ignore all of this. It knows it has the cards.
Maintaining the pressure in the information space. But again, that Iran's not buying it anymore. Iran's been down this road again and again and again. That threat or that messaging is for the domestic audience. That's for the United States. That's for us to digest, to see Donald Trump in a position of strength. As Donald Trump sits in the either in the Oval Office or maybe in the Situation Room, if I were sitting in his Florsheim orthopedic shoes right now, what I would do is I'd look at all the things on the table and say, okay, what can I survive politically, and what can we walk away from that doesn't give Iran the apparent...
No, any deal, he can't survive politically. And if he escalates, he can't survive that politically. And if he waits, oil prices, gas prices this summer, he's finished politically. All roads lead to defeat. Trump's presidency ended when he bombed the Iran supreme leader. It's just going to take a few months to play out.
Clear layman's terms win. Well, I would say, okay, Unfreezing of the assets. Qatar, can you help us out? Let's put you on that. Let's put the face of that on there. The uranium. Well, I don't want to just give up on it yet. I want to play tough guy, but we know that Kazakhstan, Iran, or excuse me, China, Russia, have all said, hey, we'll take the depleted uranium from them. And the United States has said, Kazakhstan, Pakistan, China, and Russia have all, Kazakhstan ponied that up today. And really, I know exactly where they would keep it in Kazakhstan. They would keep it up north at their nuclear facility, which I've been to. It's very cold. So when you look at the, when I was stationed in Tajikistan for a year, I went to Kazakhstan regularly. So if Kazakhstan says they can hide away some nuclear material for a while, they can. But anyway, the United States keeps saying no. So I think what we're going to see is, again, if I was sitting in Donald Trump's seat right now, I'd say, okay, Qatar, we can have them get involved in the unfreezing of assets. They can kind of carry that burden. It looks like we negotiated. The nuclear material, okay, it's out of Iran. It's not in their hands. Whether or not it was a weapon or not, somebody else has got it now. We don't have it, but somebody else has got it. Okay, look, we're being team players. And then this issue with the strait itself, with the tolling, that is one that Donald Trump cannot walk away from. And the way you described it is perfect in terms of how do you say to the American people, we destroyed their Air Force, we destroyed their Navy, we crippled their regime, we destroyed them. It's only because of our benevolence that we haven't sent them into the Stone Age, as Donald Trump would say. But now they control the Strait of Hormuz and toll and tax it, whereas before they didn't.
And they get a ton of money from that and easily rebuild everything we destroyed. Yeah, Asmongold would not like that. And Asmongold, he is the average Joe that still supports Trump in this Iran war. And though I can hear some hesitancy in his support for the war now, I think he's beginning to suspect it's not the greatest thing for America. Because he's a pretty smart dude.
Even the average American can see that that's not a win. So this is the point. This is the point that Donald Trump must fall on his sword to either win or lose. And that's why I think that this is going to be, this is going to be that point. It's like that old novel on World War I, The Guns of August. We're going into the Guns of August as August approaches.
What's the Guns of August novel?
It's a great novel. It was written about World War I, as each time that there was discussions of negotiations where you had the Entente and the Allies speaking about negotiations, the other side simply was attempting for another assault to win the war, right? Like we're gonna mass 200,000 troops, and it was called the Guns of August because through May, June, and July, leading up to, because remember, of August of that year, then going into September, October, we had the armistice. In November, the armistice was signed. But this book, the Guns of August, I recommend anybody. It's a great book. But the Guns of August refers to that when two sides are negotiating, but in actuality, they're both just preparing for the next onslaught to gain a position of advantage over the other before negotiations end. This is the Guns of August.
That's a great way to frame it. I agree.
We go through the rest of June and July. We're going to see negotiations. We're going to see discussions of negotiations. Well, both sides attempt to parry strategically. How can I gain advantage? That is war. So as we see this come, the point that I believe is going to be the sticking point that draws us into another shooting war to rip control away from Iran of the Strait of Hormuz is going to be this issue of Iran taxing and tolling the Strait of Hormuz, because it gives them an indefinite advantage. And Iran knows that.
Yep. But I will add that June, July, by the end of July, you're going to have to start seeing nations around the world starting to get together to pressure the United States. And so by the end of August, I think Trump will be under huge pressure to basically accept a deal. Accept a deal he won't accept today, putting Iran in control of the Strait of Hormuz. And it'll happen in August or September, as far as I'm concerned. The rest of the world, all the oil buffers and reserves that are being released to keep this situation stable now. Let me show you this. This is Japan's oil imports plunged to record low. And so they're releasing reserves to carry them over. Record amount of reserves. That doesn't last forever. And Japan imported 90% of their oil from the Persian Gulf. They need this solved. They need it solved now. And they'll be panicking by the end of the summer. And you're going to have pressure from places like Japan, Europe, Russia and China also be pressuring. Everyone will be pressuring Trump. And he will have to fold.
It's like, what does the Strait of Hormuz mean? Nothing. Everything.
Oh, yeah. What's the scene?
That's the scene
the
from
Kingdom of Heaven.
Kingdom of Heaven, right? When Salah ad-Din walks away and he says, "What's Jerusalem worth to you?" And he says, "Nothing, everything." That's the way Iran is looking at the Strait of Hormuz. Take it or leave it. We can take it or leave it, but to you, it means so much that that's what we're going to hold on to. Iran has found the strategic linchpin. Everything else is just chatter. Everything else is just noise. That's where it will be decided. That, also looking at it, Project Freedom, right? Remember, it didn't get an operational name. And here's where
There is no way for Trump to win this war, but there is a way for Israel to win this war. I'm just going to point that out. Escalation. All the oil infrastructure in the Gulf gets destroyed. Strait of Hormuz doesn't matter anymore. The Strait of Hormuz only matters as long as the oil infrastructure here is mostly intact, as it currently is. So, if Netanyahu convinces Trump to escalate and gets all this destroyed, the world economy is fucked. United States is fucked. Everyone except China and except Russia and Israel is fucked. Russia because high oil prices not hurt them, and Israel because now all these countries no longer have oil. Their source of income, a lot of them might get overthrown. They're critically weakened without their oil. And meanwhile, Israel still has its strong military, and it's not an oil exporter, so it's not hurt by that. Yes, they have to endure high oil prices, hatred of the rest of the world, but they would still be put them in a domineering position compared to everyone around them. Even Iran would be horribly weakened because they'd lose the Strait of Hormuz because it doesn't matter anymore. There's no oil going in and out, and their own oil is destroyed. And they could, with continuous pressure from Israel and the United States, eventually fall apart like Syria did. It probably would take a decade also. But the United States, Trump, if this happened, Trump is impeached. The Democrats win the midterm for absolutely certain, and Trump is absolutely certain impeached. And it's a disaster for Trump. But Israel, it could be good for Netanyahu if that happened. So there is a way for Israel to win. No way for Trump to win.
where nuance matters. Operation Epic Fury was formally ended. Campaign ended. Here's your fancy ribbon. Here's your fancy medal. You participated in the campaign. Great job. Trump sent a letter to Congress on the 62nd day. 60 days of operation, 62nd day because he had that 48 hours in the beginning. On the 62nd day, he sent a letter to Congress that said, Operation Epic Fury is done. We're done. And then 24 hours later, we went into Project, not Operation, Project Freedom, which quickly ended. But now we have on the table, we have this operational holding of Operation Sledgehammer. And why that matters is because an operation gives Title 10 authority under the executive branch of the United States, the president, for military forces to conduct combat wartime operations. When Operation Epic Fury ended, those authorities, that Title 10 authority, goes away. Now it's reinstated. There's a reason they didn't call it Project Freedom 2.0 or Project Sledgehammer. It's Operation Sledgehammer. Along with that comes all the authorities to conduct combat, to kill. So we are going into that. The guns of August approach, and it's going to fold out in that 12 nautical miles of the Strait of Hormuz, somewhere between Qasem Island and the tipped point of Oman, will be naval battle. Whether it's amphibious assault, whether it's controlled and seizure, and heck, this could go sideways for the administration. It could turn into something that devolves even more, and that's always the risk, right?
It will. It will. If military strikes resumes, yeah, it has all types of ways to spin out of control.
Look at Vietnam. Look at Afghanistan. Look at Iraq. Look at Syria. Not a single one of those conflicts ended on our terms. It always devolved. This has a high potential to devolve quickly and to devolve violently.
So this is the announcement. Military operation north of the Musandam Peninsula area of Oman. So you were just explaining why the fact that they called it operations important. Military operations will be conducted within the area north of the Musandam Peninsula.
They would not be announcing this if a deal was close, if they were on the verge of a deal. So that deal, bye-bye. It's a bird that's flown out of the cage. It's escaped. No one knows where it is anymore. Deal is dead.
Iran continues to attempt illegal control of the Strait of Hormuz to include dangerous and illegal mining that places ships and mariners at risk. The U.S. is committed to freedom of navigation. As a result, the U.S. Navy Central Command, so it's offering more context that I didn't read earlier, is providing notice to mariners and airmen that dangerous military activities will be taking place. All mariners are advised to avoid the traffic separation scheme of the Strait of Hormuz. Coordinate transit with the U.S. Naval Cooperation Guidance Shipping. Maintain continuous watch on VHS Channel 16. Comply immediately with instructions from U.S. forces. Navigate in accordance with call regs. Warning: Iran continues to attempt to impede mine clearance and safe transit of the Strait of Hormuz. U.S. forces operating in the Strait of Hormuz are on high alert for Iranian attack. Vessels are advised to follow the direction of U.S. forces. Any vessel that does not comply with the direction of U.S. forces may be determined to be an immediate threat and subject to proportionate measures of self-defense in accordance with international law. Any vessels observed to be engaged in or supporting mine-laying activities will be targeted by U.S. forces in self-defense. Period. Until further notice. Any changes will be detailed via advisory updates. Authority, U.S. Naval Forces, Central Command. Questions from owners, blah, 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 to an email. And then the next page, advisory on military operations in vicinity of the Strait of Hormuz north of the Masandon Peninsula. JNIC is sharing information on the following page of the awareness of owners, operators, mariners, specifically in details of U.S. operations in the north of Masandon Peninsula. The maritime security threat level of the Strait of Hormuz remains critical due to ongoing military conflict. Mariners should expect increased naval presence, enhanced force protection postures, potential VHF hailing, and congestion near anchorage areas. Masters should consider continuing monitoring available, blah, blah, blah. So it's the same stuff. Now that we read the whole thing with the context, can you shed some light on it? Is there anything else, anything new that's explained there? That
well, the when you look at
to take no pleasure in being right in saying that I've said for 2-3 months from now is the earliest we'll get a deal. I've said that all along.
Essentially what you just read in that memorandum was the what I would call paragraph 1 of an operations order, the situation. Getting deeper into the intent. What's the so what? What is the commander's intent? What is the commander-in-chief's intent? What is not Omar, but
I will also point out that this declaration that Trump released, when did he do it? Friday after the markets closed. Because otherwise oil would definitely spike. But that's why he does it here. It's been the practice of politicians for decades now, is you release bad news Friday night, right before the weekend, where it can be buried.
Brad Cooper, what's his intent? Well, it's not a matter of navigability or freedom of the strait. That exists. It's freedom and navigability of the strait without Iran's influence. So what takes us from where we are now to achieving the objective? Well, that's the removal of Iranian influence. The strait is open. The vessels have been passing back and forth through under Iran's conditions and under Iran's control. So simply the only factor to then remove from that equation in that operation order that you just shared is the removal of Iranian influence. Well, then how do you do that? You can only do that militarily because negotiations have not worked.
The only way to open Strait of Hormuz and to remove Iranian control is to take this entire coastline. Because if you take islands, it doesn't matter. I told you, tankers the size of 2 football stadiums move at the speed of a bicycle. You can hit them with anything and then just need to hit their hull and sink them and disable them. It's the easiest thing in the world. And they have thousands of drones, thousands of missiles, all in the mountains around, on the islands, on the coast. Yeah, I see no way to remove Iranian influence over this body of water.
That is not a point that Iran is going to let up on, because they have now discovered through the 90 days of this conflict that is the leverage. That is Jerusalem.
I just don't understand. I'm just struggling to understand. So, how do you think Iran will retaliate now? Now there's this operation. What happens next?
Well, so in the Strait of Hormuz, that very
various scenarios, because I know there's more than one.
Yeah. So, well, if I'm real quick, if I'm the Navy commander, if I'm the Central Command commander and the Navy task force, remember, Admiral Brad Cooper isn't out there with his little sailor hat steering a ship. He's sitting in Qatar. Might even be back in Tampa, where I don't know where he's probably in Qatar now, or in Israel at Site 66, where they've set up an alternate CENTCOM forward headquarters. I think he's probably in Israel. So when you look at what is phase 1 now under this operation? Well, demining, right? We know that the first phase, as clearly outlined in there, is to demine and to countermine. Very much like we would do
countermine. Oh my God. I'm just thinking of the oil markets. My God, would the oil markets explode out? Yeah, if you want to shut down, remove Iranian control, you can countermine.
Yeah, well, no. So hear me out. So there's you have for example, if I'm in Iraq and I'm going down a route that I know the enemy typically controls, well, I'm going to do clearance. I'm going to send a clearance element before to clear any IEDs. But then I'm quickly following with, how is the enemy going to respond to that? Where are they going to come out and try to counter my clearing?
One problem with this is the small boats that Iran uses, they're very shallow. They're like 2 or 3 feet deep. Those won't trigger any mines. Mines are made for warships that like U.S. destroyers, and they're typically like at least 5 feet underwater. So these mines that the United States would be setting up, it's not to target Iran's small fleet of small boats. It's to target Iran-linked tankers that are going, or like a Chinese tanker that's going through here, going through the approved route of the that Iran has set up. The approved route is through here, and so yeah, if they lay mines in the path that Iran tells ships to go, it will disrupt traffic through the Hormuz as it currently is going, which is under Iranian influence.
Elements. That's where I'm going to hit them. So right now, what we're going to see in the coming days, going north into the strait to counter mining and demining, will be those littoral combat ships and destroyers or cruisers that are counter mine capable. The USS, I believe the Murphy, the Peralta. I know that they have.
I can already see one way this is going horribly wrong. Chinese ship hits a mine, a U.S. mine. Now China is involved in the war. Now, China will not be happy about that. The United States has not gone after or sunk any Chinese-linked oil tankers going through the Strait of Hormuz. But mines don't discriminate. So, laying mines is very dangerous.
Have countermine measures. So we're going to see those going through to locate, detect, and then defeat or mitigate any mines that exist. But then also, you're going to have naval forces that are observing how does Iran respond, and then we're going to see strikes against those mining capabilities, or against headquarters capability on mainland Iran not through boots on the ground necessarily, but strikes to then remove the ability for them to continue mining.
So then, how will Iran respond to that? What's Iran going to do? We keep talking about what the US is going to do.
Yeah. So here's
Iran
here's
has been
how Iran responds.
very aggressive in retaliations after the
Oh yeah.
initial.
Yes, very aggressive in retaliation, and this is where again Iran's
If this all happens, I think a U.S. warship will be sunk because Iran will go after them if they get that close enough so that they're doing all this with mines, they are within this entire coastal range. And I think Iran could have sunken the ships, at least during the ceasefire. You know, when U.S. destroyers pushed into here and back, they targeted them, they fired drones and missiles at them. But see, if they fire 10 missiles at a U.S. destroyer going into the Strait of Hormuz, then the destroyer can shoot them all down. They fire 100 missiles at the destroyer, then some get through and the destroyer sinks. So when the United States, during the ceasefire, has done stunts, like put its destroyers through, they've shot at them 10 missiles. That means they weren't seriously trying to sink the destroyer because there was still the ceasefire. If the United States starts doing this and starts trying to lay mine, Iran will go all out to sink ships. There might not only 100, there might be 200 missiles and drones heading for warships. 300 if that's not enough. 400 if that's not enough. And you will see some of these U.S. ships get sunk. That is what I see.
If I'm the Iranian commander now, let's say I'm the Iranian commander of Coastal Command Hormuz Defense, or Hormuz Control, right?
Persian Gulf Strait Authority Defense Coalition.
I'm the admiral of PGSA.
That is their official name, and they have a website now.
Defense of the Strait. That's my job. Well, I'm going to look at our mines can be of certain advantage to detract resources, time, and attention, to where I'm also then employing. Remember, the asymmetric capability that Iran has used with great success is the drone capability, whether it's the one-way Slahi drones or whether it's their maritime drones. And these maritime drones can travel on the water or under
Yes, they have gotten maritime drones from Russia, and yet they will use them.
the water, and they're unmanned. They're, consider the same thing as a Shahed one-way drone in the air, but it's undersea or on the sea. Those pose a great threat. And anybody that thinks that, what's that little RC boat going to do to a destroyer? Well, I'll tell you, go back and look at the USS Cole. When that happened, that was done with a guy on a fishing dinghy that had a few hundred pounds of TNT. these new drone technology with their shaped explosive warheads that can hit the right place can sink a destroyer, or can sink a cruiser, or can sink a littoral combat ship. Could they necessarily sink an aircraft carrier? If you had enough of them hitting the right place, you could do some pretty significant damage. But we're not sailing aircraft carriers through the Strait of Hormuz. So if I'm the Iranian commander right now, I'm bringing forth all of my asymmetric capability while the U.S. is looking for mines and finding a way to clear a route. Sure, have at it. Go after my mines. I'm engaging with drones to get that hit, 1 or 2 significant hits, to then get into the U.S. decision cycle of how are we going to respond to that. And then perhaps I'm sending in my Shahed one-way drones. I'm doing it from a 2-pronged approach. So it can get pretty nasty in that narrow 12 nautical mile passage through the strait. And if I'm the Iranian commander, I've already conducted an engagement area assessment to where I know there's only one place the U.S. can come from. There's only one way we can approach. So that narrows down to 50-50 right there. So if you're Iran, sure, their Navy's destroyed. Their Air Force is destroyed. They still have a robust drone capability and a robust sea drone capability. We've seen it. So this is not something that I would just say, well, the U.S. Navy is great and they're just going to win offhand. It's going to be a fight.
Is there
And for
also the
anyone that doubts
possibility that
what a small explosive can do, go back and look at the USS Cole. Do you recall the USS Cole?
Yeah, we looked at it last time. Lisa, if you bring up the
that
USS Cole, the whole of the USS
That was
Cole,
just a fishing boat, and that hit at the waterline. Imagine a drone with a shape charge put in the right place below.
It depends where the destroyers hit. If they're hit on the fuel compartment or the ammunition compartment, those targets, then yes, a small dinghy is enough to cause incredible damage. If you hit somewhere that doesn't have a secondary explosive source like the destroyer's fuel or ammunition, then a small dinghy isn't enough to sink a destroyer. It has to hit the right place.
Oh, the waterline? That's a bad day for a Navy ship.
Yeah, while Lisa puts up these images, what about the possibility of Iran retaliating like they did to Project Freedom? And that's horizontally again, striking the Gulf. They struck Kuwait a few days ago. That seems to be their go-to strategy.
Well, the thing is now when it comes to the UAE and Saudi Arabia, and
they'll retaliate horizontally without targeting oil infrastructure. Or I don't think desalination plants either. They'll keep those in the pocket for more escalations. What they'll do is they'll target UAE. I think U.S. companies there, all the data centers. That's what I would do if I was Iran. I'd go after the data centers in the UAE as the horizontal escalation path, and similar companies in other Gulf states.
Qatar and the gloves are off. They've shown that they are overtly involved in this military operation. They're not bystanders. They're not just, hey, we're Switzerland. We're Switzerland's of the Gulf. They are involved in this. So if you're Iran and you're looking for those leverage points, we know.
Cole, by the way, the whole. So you're saying that's one dinghy
look
with
at that
TNT.
damage. That was one man on a fishing dinghy, a John boat. With
How
some TNT.
wasn't he intercepted? How did they not shoot it? Keep the same image. Keep the same.
Oh, they tried to shoot at him. They tried to shoot at him, but
they couldn't shoot
Look at that hole.
the dinghy.
They opened fire at it with their deck guns. But when you're maneuvering something really small and you're on something really big, it's hard. And they did hit that fishing boat a few times, but he was on a one-way. Remember, like during World War II, when the Japanese Imperial Air Force took to the kamikaze scenario. Yeah, we shot him out of the sky. It doesn't matter. You're on a one-way trip. So that's what these, for lack of better terms, they're suicide drones that they now have out in the sea. But that was then with some TNT, not shaped explosive, not plastic, some TNT on a boat where the dude just rammed it into the side of the USS Cole. And had that boat not been moored, it would have sank. If it was out at sea, it would have sank. So when you look at ships out at sea underway, it doesn't take a lot of them. Even one maritime suicide drone, think of it that way, because they're now built with shape charge. And shape charge below the waterline can do massive, massive damage. It's like if I'm trying to breach a wall with an explosive, well, I put a water bag on it, so I have a shaped charge, and that expands the charge tenfold. So imagine a suicide drone under the waterline hitting the USS Murphy or the USS Peralta or the USS whatever. Can you imagine a sunken destroyer or a sunken missile cruiser?
This is what Iran has. Iran develops underwater drones.
Or a sunken littoral combat ship? taken out by an enemy that lost their name.
Then Trump is forced back into the war, back to the horizontal option, because that's a way to kind of retaliate strongly without forcing escalation to a full-blown war. What do you? No need for that's like how the what's this?
That's a shape charge that all of these drones are equipped with.
Oh, interesting.
So when you send a maritime drone, a boat suicide drone, that entire thing is the explosive. It's the shaped charge. Imagine taking a remote control, RC controlled boat and being able to ram it right into a multi-billion-dollar ship.
What's the likelihood you think a horizontal response happens by this weekend, as in a strike on some Gulf country?
I think it's highly likely. It's highly likely, and it'll either be either Kuwait again. And I think, the reason we saw that retaliation at Kuwait is because Kuwait is still operational. Camp Arif John, if you've ever flown over it or been to Camp Arif John in Kuwait, where U.S. Army Forward is headquartered, it's massive. So did it take a lot of damage in the opening exchanges of this war? It did, but it's still operational. We still have radars there. We still have radar techs. We still have analysts. We still have people there that are waging war. And then you also have Camp Beering, which is a pretty large depot for U.S. military armament and personnel processing into theater, and would be a pretty predictable point to stage forces if you were going to do something, let's say, against Karag Island. It's a straight shot from Kuwait. So I think if we see that horizontal response, it's going to be directed either Kuwait or the UAE.
Did you see the report that freaking the UAE, apparently, according to the Wall Street Journal, dozens of strikes against Iran? Did you see that?
Yep.
Yeah.
You saw that? Including the petrochemical plant.
Yes.
I knew about some of them. Apparently it was even more than I knew about.
And that's what I'm saying now, that the gloves are off in terms of future horizontal escalation or strikes, because these countries have now shown they're not neutral. They're not sitting it out. They're not.
Remember how Asmongold was saying, "Oh, the poor innocent Qatar got hit by an Iranian missile. That was oil is burning." These weren't innocent states.
Just letting the U.S. pass through and use their airports. They're actively involved. They are engaged. They are belligerents in the conflict. There's however you want to say it, the allies and the Entente. They are part of the alliance.
Yeah, the only one that wasn't involved in isn't a belligerent is Oman. They're the only ones that they stayed out of the Iran war, and they haven't been struck by Iran.
They are legitimate targets, and the thing is that they are very close to Iran in terms of geographic location. Is that Camp Beering? That looks like Camp Beering.
That's Camp Beering. Where is
looks
that
located? Like it. Camp Beering is also in Kuwait. Yeah, there it is. That's Camp Beering.
There's a Chili's
there. A lot?
I've been in and out of Camp Beering for the last 20 some odd years. We invaded Iraq from Camp Beering. We crossed the berm in the invasion from Camp Beering, Camp New Jersey.
Amazing.
Yeah, so what you see there, that array of forces at Camp Beering, Kuwait, which is near Camp Arif John, is what's called Operation Spartan Shield. We maintain an armored division at all times sitting there since the first Gulf War, Operation Desert Shield, Desert Storm. We maintain that armored brigade, tanks, Bradleys, air defense systems, infantry, armor. We maintain that to respond when we still had the amount of bases we had in Iraq. And the ironic thing now is that Operation Spartan Shield has always been intended to deter Iranian aggression. And now it can't get out of there. It can't move. What are they going to do?
That's so stupid.
Cross the Zagros Mountains with tanks?
you were talking about the reports of the UAE strikes. If true, that kind of explains maybe why Iran kept striking the UAE so much. But it's kind of the chicken and egg. Was the UAE striking Iran because they were being attacked so much? Did Iran attack them so much because they were retaliating? It's hard to tell, but it's.
No, I think that the UAE is now. I firmly believe that there are IDF intelligence officers and IDF targeting officers sitting in the UAE, assisting with targeting plans and targeting arrays on what targets to hit and when, as part of the war, as part of the plan, not necessarily in response, because you can take it one or two ways. That Iran has endured quite well considering what they're up against. They have. I think that most
they have.
would agree with that. But they do have to be pragmatic. They do have to select targets. They do have to select objectives that provide them with advantage. They can't just sling missiles around because they get a fancy to do it, like Donald Trump. They have to be very pragmatic in their approach. So I think that when they're targeting and looking at things, they're identifying. Remember, Iran is getting exquisite intelligence, imagery, satellite intelligence from China. We know that. That's been clear. So when you put that together with the IRGC's intelligence capability, along with what China is providing, I think that when
Russia too.
Iran does conduct strikes, they're doing it for a very clear intent, for a very clear effect. So any response to or back and forth is, and I also think that the UAE definitely has Israeli senior staff, targeteers, and intelligence officers in their headquarters. I'd bet money on it.
There's one more thing. It's an important development that also happened today.
What?
So you've got the UAE attacks. You've got that announcement. Obviously, the whole political back and forth about the deal, which we're not talking about. Oman made a statement as well. Oman said, after Trump made the threats, Oman is unfazed by the threat of
Trump threatening Oman.
bombs and sanctions from America. That's Oman, an American ally that has US bases. It's unfazed by threats of bombs and sanctions from America, not Iran, and reaffirms its commitment to ensuring the safety and navigation jointly with Iran in the Strait of Hormuz.
Yeah. I mean, if you're Oman and you're the UAE, which the UAE, I don't know, something got into their Wheaties. But if you're Oman, in this case, you're looking at it, who will you have to have an enduring presence, partnership, or at least close proximity, physical location to? Not the United States, Iran. And if you look at it in a sense of, in reality, if you look at control of the Strait of Hormuz through this Persian Gulf administrative security mechanism, well, what they're looking at is like, because right now the world has been like, oh, everybody's been using the Strait. Why are you going to charge us for it now? Well, it's free. And things that are free don't get taken care of. So if you're Oman and you're Iran, you're like, okay, well, all these big ships coming through and destroying our coastline, and that navigable channel has to be dredged, and who's going to control all of the communication? Like, are we just going to continue doing that for free? Well, maybe we were doing it before, but no, you pissed us off now, so no, we're not going to do that for free anymore. And just like every other strategic...
Iran's going to be charging a lot more than is necessary for environmental maintenance and stuff like that. It's going to use money to rebuild all the destruction U.S. caused.
Strategic navigable point on the globe, whether it's the Panama Canal, whether it's the Dardanelles, whether it's the past Strait of Gibraltar, they are all administratively controlled by a host nation or an alliance of administrative control to do all of those things, to pay for upkeep, repair, maintenance.
Made a pistachio cake. It's green. That sounds good. Making me hungry.
The costs of operating all of that. So is that entirely their reason? No. But you cannot.
I worry they're kind of picking sides. Like they said.
Is Oman picking sides?
Oman picked side. Yes.
Yeah.
There's a reason why Oman was hit. I think they were barely hit. I think maybe some of the U.S. bases there were targeted, but they really. You kept on hearing about Iran hitting Qatar, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Kuwait, but not so much Oman.
Yeah, this is. Remember what we said back on the 28th of February. We said it. This is going to change the nature of global alliances and partnerships away from the United States.
Yeah, but too early. It's been weeks. Jesus.
I mean, this is the position that the United States is in, specifically over this little 12 nautical mile passage. Does Iran know that this is the dagger in Trump's side? Absolutely, and they're not going to pull it out. Why would they?
Day one of the war, I said, all they need to do to get rid of Trump is hold that strait closed 6 months, and he's finished. And they're halfway there.
I mean, it's a war.
Yeah, one of my guests today said, Andrew Fox, and he said he's I think a major from the British military, and he said this is the biggest strategic mistake by the US since Vietnam, more than Afghanistan. He said it's not as bad.
Oh, I think it's going to be more catastrophic than Vietnam, or at least for the sitting president, in terms of disaster for the president that gives the order. I don't think anything compares to this Iran war.
As Afghanistan, but he said strategically it's worse than Afghanistan because of the ramifications it's going to cause, especially among allies. And that Oman one could be seen as an example. Could he be right? Could it be really that bad? His name is Major Andrew Fox. Yeah, I'm just looking him up now. Could it be really that bad?
Yeah, so when I look at...
One thing about Vietnam is, yes, you had lots of deaths, but this is going to cause, indirectly, a lot of deaths around the world. 1 million people will starve next year. Not in America, in poorer nations. But there will be people that that die in the United States from economic hardship and rising prices from this war. And it's just going to be devastating for everyone around the globe economically, except few places like Russia.
Look at the strategic mistakes or strategic failures. This would be in the category of a strategic blunder. I would call it a strategic.
That's exactly what I asked. Funny enough, it's ironic how literally Major General Randy Manner said exactly the same thing. Mario, no, this is the strategic blunder. So yes, the same.
Yeah, blunder is a doctrinal term.
Okay. Oh, there you go.
But I would call it a strategic blunder in that this was unforced.
Yes.
When we went into Afghanistan and we went with the reason of,
It was just Trump's mistake. It'll be over in 3 days. He was tricked into believing
of overthrowing the Taliban because they allowed terrorist organizations to occupy their land and this and that. We continue to devolve into more and more and more and more and more until we forgot why are we here? Well, this has only been 90 days and we started it. And now the position that we put ourselves in, the predicament we put ourselves in is that
the United States believed as a whole, the nation, and honestly a large part of the government too. It's only a small part of it that maybe had a different knowledge about what September 11th was. And so Afghan war made sense. It wasn't a mistake per se for the United States, given what they knew.
Is an unforced error, like in sports, right? Like that. No, the opponent didn't cause that error. You did that to yourself. That's an interception. That's a fumble. Unforced error. So in this case, a blunder in that the administration went into this. When I look at Vietnam, the administration went into Vietnam not thinking, oh, we can win this quick. We went into Vietnam thinking, we're only going to be there quick. We're not winning the whole thing. We're just going to do this and we're out. Well, that changed. Donald Trump's position going into this conflict was that we are going to end it on our terms very quickly. Days, maybe weeks after we clean up aisle 6. No, it's the premise of thought going into this that makes it the strategic blunder. Now, from where we are right now, would I say that it was as bad or as generationally impactful as Vietnam? No. As impactful as that.
Yet. This Iran war, it has yet to play out. Keep saying this at the end of the summer and see if it's not going to be as impactful generational. The Iran war is going to have impacts all the way into next year, like food prices next year, gas prices this summer, and just economic pain all along. It's we haven't even begun to feel the pain from this Iran war.
Afghanistan in the region, potentially, because of the alliances and the partnerships that it is changing. Decades of U.S. presence. When we left Afghanistan in August of 2021,
this Iran war, at least the U.S. side of it, it was to take out the one adversary still in the Persian Gulf. They took out Iraq. They took out Assad in Syria. One last adversary in the Gulf. All the rest of these are basically U.S. puppets that have their currency pegged to the dollar, have U.S. bases. There are bitches. And as a result of this war, we're actually going to lose influence. There's going to be countries like Oman that are now going to be siding with China and Iran. Our influence in this region is going to shrink. And that's going to have long-term impacts.
Flew, reached 186, that C-17 off the runway, and we flew away. We didn't get kicked out of every other base in the region. Now we're looking at what is the U.S. future in the region? What are we going to maintain? Who's going to keep us there? This is going to drastically change the U.S. position in Western and Southeast Asia, or at least Southwest Asia. This is going to change. And
we're talking about the change. Just now came out. The Omani Foreign Ministry released a statement regarding Omani Foreign Minister Badr bin Hamad Al Busaida, his call with Arachi, the Iranian Foreign Minister. His Excellency name received a phone call from the evening from His Excellency Arachi. During the call, the two sides reviewed the latest regional developments and exchanged views on the efforts being made to support sustainable and just political solutions to contribute to enhancing security and stability in the region. They also reaffirmed their commitment to ensuring freedom of maritime navigation and its security through the Strait of Hormuz in accordance with their sovereign responsibilities over their territorial waters, in conformity with international law and preserving the interests of all regional and international parties. So what are they saying? This is very vague. So they're saying it's their territory. developments and exchange of views on the efforts being made to support sustainable and just political solutions that contribute to enhancing security and stability in the region. Yeah, I've no. They wrote
They're
it.
really, they're really not. They're not really saying to
very
whom,
political.
right?
They're saying,
It's
yeah,
very
exactly. They're like,
nebulous and
we had a
fluffy.
call.
Yes, yes.
Exactly. We had a call.
We had a call. We talked about justice. We shouldn't.
This type of statement is practically not even worth reading.
We shouldn't be at war. We need peace. Okay, well,
Exactly.
who's right?
No
Who's
one
wrong?
should sink the
It's not
boats. The
about
boats
who's
should
right
go
or
through.
wrong.
They should float
Yeah.
in our territory, but they should be just, politically just in our territory. So it's like,
Yeah.
we want to charge. We're not going to charge. We may charge. We don't know. We're discussing it.
Yeah,
man.
it was like listening to Pam Bondi explain the Epstein files.
I didn't watch that. But doesn't she have? I saw Bandit. Is she going through a cancer treatment now as well?
That's what the news has said. But as soon as they announced that she was, she did have some sort of cancer diagnosis, that Trump appointed her to this one of his new boards. Board of
I saw that.
it was I can't remember which. There's so many boards. I don't know the board of the UFC. I don't know.
I thought something
I
to do
mean,
with
right now in DC, I just saw it yesterday. They're building a massive stage.
I saw that.
Maybe she's in charge of that. I don't know.
As a final question, how worried are you? What could we expect next? We've talked about what could expect with this operation, but looking at it from a bigger picture perspective, because we saw all the progress seemingly on reaching a deal, we don't know what the terms are. Are you more optimistic than we were last time we spoke a week or so ago? Seeing those both sides talking about progress, but both sides talking about different terms, and now this operation, are you less optimistic or relatively at the same place?
I'm at the same place. I think that the previous talks of negotiation where we were hearing from J.D. Vance and Marco Rubio that we're there, we're so close, and then you hear Donald Trump saying one thing and Iran saying completely the other. It's like, okay, well, we're not even in the same room. We're not, and I mean that theoretically. Like we're not even in the same ballpark. Like we're not close.
Yes.
So when I look at where we are now, we're further apart than we were then, because again, now we've in the negotiations before we were taking chops at all the easy stuff, right? Like, oh, your sanctions, we'll lift them, maybe this and that. Okay, we can wait, maybe later. Qatar will deal with that. Unfreeze our assets. Oh yeah, we can do some of that in exchange for, maybe you give up your nuclear. But now we've come to the core of the problem. We've come to the, to the hard nut to crack, which no one's budging.
Yeah.
I mean, we even said, Trump even said, oh, Iran's going to stop tolling and open up the strait. And Iran's like, no, we didn't. We didn't
Nope.
do that. Like, they couldn't be more opposite in terms of the polarity of the statements. So I think right now with that, what I call an operations order, a warning order from U.S. Central Command to its Navy Task Force Hormuz, that they're soon going to be operating in that northern part of the Gulf of Oman near Sharik, near those first little island chains. We're probably going to see strikes again against Bandar Abbas, like we saw over the last 2 nights. I think that we're gonna see that continue. I think we're going to see a lot of from Trump speaking on, all negotiation has to come through me. I'm the final say, and then we're going to see this delay. Well, I'll read it. I'm not satisfied with it. We're not satisfied. We sent it back. All the while, we're continuing our naval combat operations. It's the guns of August, and as August approaches, we're nowhere different than we were from World War I.
Man, if war breaks out in August, I think this clip will go viral, that's for sure. Anthony, always a pleasure to have you on the show. Thanks for jumping on and explaining this for us. I appreciate it.
Thanks.
Yeah, this was a fun video, and looks like things are going to get exciting in the Straits of Hormuz in the coming weeks. And it doesn't look like a deal's anywhere close. Anyway, this will be on YouTube. Like and subscribe. Come watch or click our Twitch, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.